Hi everyone, how are you? You've been asking me many legal questions on my apps through email, and guess what? I'm not an attorney, so I've always had to turn you guys away and say, I can't really answer legal questions, I don't do that. But guess what? Just for you guys, I have a real live attorney, Steve Pipenger. He's been practicing law in New York for 10 plus years, and he's going to answer all our questions. And by the way, I have so many questions that I've saved from all of you guys, and I'm going to ask him. So, thank you for being on my YouTube channel, Steve.
You're welcome.
Another question that I get pretty often on my apps and in email and things like that is, should I get liability insurance in case someone sues my business? Is that the main reason to get liability insurance? And should every business get that? How does that typically work?
Well, there's a whole slew of types of liability insurance, and a lot of times it can be very specific to an industry. Think of like a moving company, a rental car company. They're going to have insurance against car accidents. You have a construction company. You're going to buy insurance against your workers getting hurt. In certain instances, you can guarantee it's going to happen. If you have a construction company and you have workers, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to get sued. They're going to get hurt on the job. It's going to happen. So there are easy ones there. I had seen an article recently where an insurance company, and I don't remember the company, was selling social media insurance, such that they were selling an insurance policy. If somebody came to your website, or let me step back, somebody put something on social media negative about your company, and you lost sales because of it, you could sue, and under the policy, either the insurance company would represent you, or you could make a claim against the policy. Here's the problem with that. Number one, when you have an insurance policy, if you want to make a claim against the policy, you have to prove to the insurance company's satisfaction that the harm you suffered is something that's under the insurance policy, that the insurance policy covers that. Yeah. In that case, it strikes me as difficult to prove, particularly given the ubiquity of the web. Stuff on the internet is everywhere. If you're a company, suppose you're company X that sells widgets, and somebody goes on to Yelp and says, company X's widgets caused me to go bald, and suddenly people stop buying company X's widgets. Suppose company X has this insurance policy. The problem is, company X goes and they say to the insurance company, hey, somebody put this thing on here that didn't actually happen, we lost a bunch of business. You would have to show your insurance company that the loss of business was related to that particular thing that person said on Yelp. Now again, given that you put something on Twitter and it's around the world in 10 seconds,
yeah.
You put something on Facebook that's around the world in 10 seconds, it's very difficult to prove that that one thing is what caused the loss of revenue.
Yeah.
So the issue is, with that insurance policy is, if you pay a premium, how easy or difficult is it going to be for you to prove, to establish a claim under the policy? Now, it could be that, suppose the policy is very cheap, so suppose it's $10 a month. That would be worth it. If for no other reason than, if you suffered, $121 in a year of damages, it pays for itself. I suspect that those policies probably don't have very low premiums.
You mean the social media ones?
The social media ones.
But the traditional ones, like
it just depends.
Depends on the size of the business usually?
It depends on the size of the business. It depends on the type of losses that you're insuring. It depends on where. I'll give you a for instance. In New York City, not New York State, but New York City has a law where any business let me say any building, a commercial building, a person slips on the sidewalk and is injured on the in front of the building.
Yeah.
The building is responsible.
Not the businesses in it, the building.
The building, we'll say
Yeah.
the building owner.
Okay.
Now forget the fact that each of those people each of those companies who has a lease in that building, there's probably a provision in there that they are to indemnify the owner if they get sued. Forget that. The point is, the city owns the sidewalk, but the business is responsible for maintaining it, and if someone falls on it in front of the business gets sued. Now, in a city like New York, which has lots of sidewalks and is cold for a number of months during the year,
yeah,
and has a fair amount of rain, you're going to get a lot of people who slip and fall in front of sidewalks. So in that kind of instance, because it's something that might happen fairly frequently, an insurance policy would be more expensive. If you were to buy flood insurance or hurricane insurance in New York, it might not be that expensive because I don't know how many
rare.
Sandy.
It happens though, rarely.
It happens. It's not as common as it would be, say, if you lived, somewhere on Long Island on the coast. So how expensive it is a direct relation to what's the likelihood of the insurance company having to pay out a claim.
Right.
Which is why people who have bad driving records have higher premiums, because the company says, well, it's more likely that we're going to have to pay something. And then there's different types of business insurance policies. There is the negligence insurance policy I talked about. In corporations, a lot of times corporations buy what's called directors and officers liability policies, so that the company will take a policy out on any wrongdoing that the board does, or directors do, which is the board, or officers do, and that policy would pick up the legal defense of the directors and officers. You would have what's called EPL policies, employment practices liability policies, where if a person sues somebody for employment discrimination, the insurance company would pick up the defense of the corporation against the employee.
And that's essentially, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that's the most frequent case of businesses getting sued is sexual harassment. Is that right?
I would say it's not the most. Again, it would depend on the company. Certainly in New York City, it's mostly slips and falls. Think you walk into a grocery store, the guy mops the store, someone slips.
Yeah.
Macy's, someone slips. In front of there's a perfect example. Think of Macy's over in Herald Square. That sidewalk goes essentially all the way around the building. So Macy's is responsible for an entire half of a city block. Essentially
yeah.
It's 4 sides. I mean, if Macy's borders all of that, it's responsible for any slip and fall on that sidewalk anywhere.
So there must be like one a day.
At least one.
At least one a day. So I mean, okay, so right. So probably that would be the most frequent.
I would in New York City particularly. Other places may not be, but
that's interesting. So it's very geography and sort of like almost culture based.
Sure, it's culture based. And let's be honest here. People sue everybody. In the U.S., everyone sues everybody. It's not a European phenomenon. It's certainly not. It's not so much as it is in the U.S. I don't think. In Japan, for instance, people don't sue people. Lawyers sue. People sue lawyers. People sue doctors. Everyone's suing somebody when something goes wrong.
Yeah.
So those are other policies that somebody would have. A malpractice policy.
Malpractice, yeah.
Accountant, architect, doctor, lawyer, anything.
If you have specific questions on this, of course, Steve provides a 30-minute free consultation. You can reach him at Pipenger Law, and if you're not sure about how to spell that, there's going to be a description link in the description of the video to it. So check that, and all his contact information is there as well. So thank you for watching.